So I've got a talk on DTrace, and we have a number of DTrace experts in the room, so I thought it would be a great idea to give a quick crash course on DTrace for about half an hour, and then in the remaining time, about half an hour or whenever we get kicked out, we'll have a panel. During the presentation, when I talk about DTrace, this is a good opportunity for you to think about what questions you'd like the panel to answer afterwards. So you'll have all the material in front of you. The sort of questions that you may be preparing while I go through this, what sort of problems, observability problems in particular, have you had in the past that you absolutely couldn't solve? And could DTrace solve them? And those are sort of good questions to ask us, because they're kind of softball questions, because DTrace probably can answer those observability problems. But do think about that during the presentation. So about a half an hour presentation will be pretty quick, and then we'll go through some questions. So the presentation I've got here is, it would normally go for about 2 hours. I'm going to do it in about 30 minutes because we have a very smart crowd. This presentation is on the internet, but of course we'll get it hooked up with the KCA website properly. And so a DTrace crash course. And there's a floating coffee cup for no reason there. This presentation is an introduction to DTrace, part of the DTrace topics collection, which I've put on solarisinternals.com. And it will quickly go through what DTrace is, what DTrace is for, who uses DTrace, essentials, and usage features. What is DTrace? So I can talk about what DTrace is, but this is one of those examples where it's, or one of those scenarios where it's best to use an example to show you what DTrace is. So, and Andre has encouraged me to run some destructive DTrace. So here's a program that I've never seen work on Mac before, but I just got it working earlier. And it turns the laptop into a noisy typewriter, which is great for driving your office workers insane. And it has other sound effects. Now, this may be sad to confess, but I actually run this at work all the time. Whenever I have when I have headphones on, otherwise Brian would kill me. Why don't I just buy Model M? I like the light touch. And if you don't understand why you would listen to this, like every time you're on a computer, try using it for a week and then turn it off. And you'll be like, something's wrong. Like the keys aren't working. So your mind just develops this expectation that there'll be noise when you hit keys. And I'm afraid I'm addicted to it. So one of my favorite things is to go to a website. Oh, it doesn't work. I'm going to have to fix that. Like I said, I just got it working there. Usually it works for everything, like not just these guys, but websites as well. But there is one other sound effect. Anyone guess what it's going to be? Yes. You're getting close to the end of the line. Okay. Great stuff. That's what DTrace is about, and that concludes my presentation. Okay, now we've seen DTrace. DTrace is a dynamic troubleshooting and analysis tool first introduced in Solaris 10 and Open Solaris. I'm now running it on Mac OS X, which is great. It's many things, in particular a tool, a programming language interpreter, an instrumentation framework, and it provides observability across the entire software stack from one tool. It allows you to examine software execution like never before, and that's best demonstrated, so I'll go through some things. And excuse me while I get some water. Although this water seems brown, I'm sure that's fine. Yeah, they took away the coffee cup, so... DTrace example 1, tracing new processes system-wide. This is a more sensible example to start with. This is a one-liner. This is being run on Solaris. DTrace -n, syscall exec e return. trace exec name. What it's doing is it's showing you whatever processes are executed live, and it's printing that out. That was something that was very difficult to do before. In fact, how did you do it before? How did you find out what processes, what process names were being executed live? Max knows. CD/proc and trust everything. You'll find the shells that are executing things. And TNF did have some stuff to answer it as well. Anyway, it was really difficult. This is much easier because it's just a one-liner. I haven't run this on Mac OS X for a while, so let's see this run on Mac, which will be more exciting. And let me just create a new tab. Ah, feels so good. Okay, let's see if that works. All right. That's what I wanted to check. It doesn't actually work. Mac exec E is just a Solaricism, and I just wanted to check whether that existed. DTrace -n, and then that program needs a bit of work. DTrace -n, and then a description like that. -n means this is going to be the name of a probe, and here, and we'll learn this very rapidly if you don't know it already. Syscall is the name for provider. That's like a library of probes. Probe is an event that I can trace of interest. And this is a fortable, and exec would be the name of the system call, and entry is when I start that system call. Exec turns out to be a Solaricism. I will use -L on DTrace to find what the real thing is. All right, I'm going to have to turn that off. Something's wrong with my keyboard. Like, it doesn't work anymore. Okay, there we go. So I've actually used DTrace -ln, L to list. I've thrown a star out there because I've guessed it's some other variant of exec, and it's actually called exec VE. So if I run this now, without the -L to list, I'm tracing syscall exec VE entry. Turns out I'm not running any new processes unless I go into another window and type ls. I just ran something. It'll be more interesting if it tells me what it ran. So I'm now putting something in curly braces. How many people have programmed in awk or nawk before? Wow, fantastic. How many people have programmed in Fortran 77 before? No, awk and nawk are much newer. How about intercal? No. I have written programs in intercal. It's on my website. Trace is like echo. Since you're so familiar with awk lets you run an event when a line matches something, and you put it in these braces. So here I've got the action, which is trace exec name. Trace is just echo. Exec name is the variable. If I now run ls, then it tells me I just ran the shell. I thought I ran ls. That's because exec is a magical system call that turns something into something else. This is the point of exec. So exec turns a process from when you initially fork a process, it will then exec a new binary. So the shell has forked and become ls. I can do them both at the same time just by dropping this. So a blank is a wildcard. So I can see exec VE entry. I start off as the bourne shell, or bash, because I've just forked, and then exec VE return. I'm now ls.